Well, Congressman, I think we're in the middle of this now in our Quad relationship. That's U.S., Japan, India, Australia. In our Defense Cooperation Council between Australia, Republic of the Philippines, Japan, United States. In the Korea, Japan, U.S. Trilat. In the United States as a comprehensive strategic partner to ASEAN and a member of the ADMM Plus. All over we see these multilaterals are getting richer. They're getting bigger all of the time. It's happening organically, and it's really exciting.
Thank you. Again, I thank all three of you for your leadership. And Mr. Chairman, I'll give you back 40 seconds.
You're awesome. All right, just for situational awareness, we've been called for votes, so we're going to get Mr. Keating in, and after that, we will recess until after votes. But with that, the gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to deal with China's engagement with Russia in terms of its strengthening Moscow's ability to sustain itself in the war in Ukraine. It's obvious that their imports of Russian oil and natural gas is helping in terms of revenue with Russia so they can sustain the effort. And also, their exports of dual-use goods and technology that really help them sustain the defense production as well. Do you want to comment on China's activity with Russia?
Congressman, on top of being the key critical market for their energy, China provides 90% of the semiconductors that power Russia's war machine and 70% of the machine tools that powers Russia's war machine. That connection is real. It's right before our very eyes, and it's deeply concerning.
Yeah, there's been many retired military and pundits, if you will, talking about the fact that our strategic goal in the Indo-Pacific, and particularly with China, is deterrence. And the U.S. actions, their comments, as well as mine, are the deterrence factors weakened by the U.S. lack of commitment to Ukraine, particularly its actions with NATO. Just calling NATO, freeloaders, calling NATO pathetic, calling them recently paper tigers, saying their troops were in the back of the line for our confrontation, even though they were there under Article 5, the only time it was initiated. When you're looking at that effect of Ukraine with China and the U.S. Actions around Ukraine, doesn't that weaken our deterrence? As China's looking at it with Taiwan in particular, that's just not my feeling. I think it's a majority of people that, more people that are retired from the military than current military in that regard. So I don't want to get you into policy before you had to, but it seems to me that's clear. Perhaps you could answer it, Mr. No. Let's leave the military out of that policy issue for now.
Congressman, I think the relationships we're building with our allies and partners speak for themselves. I think our activities, our posture, what Indo-PACOM is doing with its OAIs, I think they speak for themselves. So no, I don't think there's been any kind of erosion of deterrence in the Indo-Pacific.
Well, you must admit, you're saying speak for themselves. That's just a free sampling of what I've had about what the Secretary of Defense or the President has said about our NATO allies. I think they speak for themselves. So isn't that something, that kind of fractured relationship, doesn't that hurt us with our deterrent posture in the Indo-Pacific and China? You don't think so?
Congressman, we're doing everything we can in close coordination with Indo-PACOM and USFK, with Admiral Paparo and General Brunson to make sure.
I'm not concerned about the military cooperation, sir. I'm concerned about the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary and their comments as it affects that deterrent effect.
Sir, the Department will always make sure we're ready to respond to any kind of contingency and that we're able to deter any threat in the Indo-Pacific.
So I'll give you one more chance. So the actions we've taken in Ukraine, pulling back, and the language and the fracturing of our NATO alliance, I didn't even mention trying to invade a NATO country like Denmark through Greenland, but that affects the deterrent posture of the U.S. when they see that fracturing, because one of our greatest strengths has been the coalition we've had the global coalition, particularly with NATO. So how does that not hurt the deterrent effect that the U.S. poses on China when that's weakened by the statements of our top people,
Sir,
including the President and the Secretary of Defense?
Sir, our deterrence posture in the Indo-Pacific is strong, and we'll make sure it stays that way.
You repeated yourself. I just think that that's something that has really hurt us. Hurt us globally, but particularly hurt us in the Indo-Pacific. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. We will now recess until approximately 11:55 to 12. And thank you. You got a break.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our panel here today. I appreciate all our interest in Indo-PACOM, especially with my home on Guam. I also want to thank my good colleague, Joe Wilson, who has been a strong advocate for the islands as well. Admiral Paparo, I appreciate all your support for Guam, and I know you have the nation's best interests in hand when for our defense, being the most Western soil that we have. One of my biggest longstanding requests for Indo-PACOM has been expanding our investments in Guam's power grid, which is largely still owned by the War Department. And I've been advocated for the use of authorities under 10 U.S.C. 2815 to underground more of our power lines to ensure the grid can meet Department of War's growing demands for electricity. So what do you view as the best path for DOW to support Guam Power Authority in expanding infrastructure and meeting military requirements?
Congressman, good afternoon. Thank you. You're well aware of how important shore power is to Naval Base Guam, and that is to get high-fidelity, reliable power, shore power, to the submarine squadron that's there. And the overall resilience of Guam, which is so important to our nation's defense, is so important to us at U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. And on all the things that we're cooperating on the hospitals, on the building out of critical infrastructure, there are direct defense benefits to that. And so not just for the reliable shore power that provides power to Naval Base, but to the entire island. You can count on my complete support